Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. It's on the air, off the presses with our media expert today. We're talking about Donald Trump, the one and only, the President of the United States, meeting with the President of Russia on Friday. I know we'll get a lot of phone calls and reaction on this one. It usually happens when he's here, his 68th appearance on this program. Back with your phone calls in a moment. Today's program sponsored by Dr. Thomas Casagrande, 2020 Optometrics, the man who made these glasses for me. Back in a moment. All right, back here on the show on a Monday morning. Glad you're here. Connect with me on MeTV Fresno. As usual, we got our media expert here on the program talking about Trump, talking about Putin, and all the rest. A lot of breaking news, of course, over the weekend with this meeting, this much anticipated meeting. We'll talk about that during the course of the program. A quick programming note for tomorrow. We have got Sal Lomas coming back on the program. He opened up Urban Gents. It's a haircutting place along Fulton Street. Did you know that Fulton Street hasn't even opened up yet, and it may not open up until the fall? We'll get his take on how it's affecting his new business that just opened up not long ago. Okay, and then on Wednesday, we'll talk to a photographer who worked with the Oakland Raiders and was Al Davis's personal photographer for the better part of 30 years plus. We'll also talk to one man who is the executive director for a time for the Oakland Raiders. That is on Wednesday's program. We'll bring in all kinds of memorabilia. He has since retired. We'll get his take on Mark Davis and the move to Vegas and all the rest. And then on Thursday, well, another special program. But then on Friday, we go on vacation for about a week. And so we'll see you back on the other side. For now, you're watching us live on Comcast, channel 375. As usual, Comcast cable. And it's Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. If you don't have Comcast, 13.1, 43.6 over the air. 2 o'clock in the afternoon is the replay. That's when you can watch this program again, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. After that, my friends, we're on YouTube for the better part of forever. All right, so now that we've had a few days to digest much of what has happened between the much anticipated meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, what was the outcome, you ask? Well, I think that depends on what you read or have read over the weekend and maybe what talk shows you've listened to, including this one. Let's roll the videotape, show you exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, this took place on Friday. Yes, the two leaders met in this photo op, but later went face to face, just the two of them, I think, behind closed doors for more than 2 hours. The only other people in the room, the interpreters and Rex Tillerson, I think, I don't know. Reportedly, there was no hostility in face-to-face meeting with Trump and Putin. Trump said that he was honored to meet Putin, the man believed to have orchestrated a series of cyber attacks as he tried to influence the outcome of our 2016 election. During this exchange, Putin, who has, as you know, killed off many of his own journalists, he simply asked the question, "These are the ones who insulted you?" Did you read about that? The Secretary of State said that Trump pressed Putin more than once about interfering in the election. The Russian leader denied playing a role, according to reports. And the two presidents focused more on moving forward rather than focusing on the press. And so did Trump simply accept Putin's answer as gospel, ignoring our own intelligence groups who concluded that 9 months ago that Russia had tried to interfere? Just a day earlier, while in Poland, Trump said, "I think it was Russia, and people or maybe other countries, and I see nothing wrong with that statement." No one really knows, Trump said. He even attacked our own intel agencies by bringing up the huge mistake that we made in Iraq about WMDs. Hey, live in our studio right now is the one and only Dennis Hart, our media expert here for the 68th time in the last 5 years. He first appeared in this program, believe it or not, in 2012. He looked a lot younger then, by the way. All right, 2012. That was a long time ago, my friends. 436-ME-TV, option 11. I guess I looked a lot younger too, right?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
All right, you can call in and weigh in. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today on the program. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
And away we go.
Here's the place that makes you smile. Stick around and stay a while. We're the home of great TV. That's memorable. That's me.
Follow me, sir.
Call them classics, call them the best. Call them favorites, be a guest. Every day there's more to come. Watch and see, there's only one. Me TV.
All you have to do is watch me.
Are you kidding me?
Follow me.
That's memorable. That's me.
That's me.
Me TV.
Back here in our program, my friends, and once again, let's take the shot. Live in our studio. No, the single shot. Live in our studio.
I was just strolling by, thought I'd drop in for my 68th time, just walking by. You know, it's a sunny day out there. It's a hot day.
Can you put those on one more time?
Let's put them on. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nothing worse than an old guy trying to look
Is that
20.
right? Is that right? Well, you should know. You should know. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, my friend.
There we go,
And so a
68
lot
times.
going on over the
Plenty,
weekend. Why
plenty.
don't we take the call first and see what's on this caller's
And we
mind?
haven't even said anything. Okay.
I haven't said a thing.
All right.
Caller, you're on the air with the first question or comment. Go ahead.
Well, my question is more of a comment than anything else. Is I don't think people are giving Mr. Trump his due. He is the greatest magician I've ever seen in my life. He turns right around and he starts something and then never finishes it. And he never goes back to it. You got women that have a lawsuit against him for his sexism. And then you have be a bit about the tax returns. He hasn't done a thing about that.
Right.
And then you have he had to pay $25 million to settle his university claims and for fraud. And then you have all this other stuff going on. He's the greatest magician in the world. Smoke, mirrors, cloud up the water so you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
And somebody's telling him how to do this, and we're all criticizing him for not being the great magician that he and whoever is talking to him and advising him is doing it.
Well, let me
Why
ask
don't
you.
we go back and force the issue and make him come up with all these taxes and all this other to answer all the other questions that he's been avoiding since January. And anyway, basically that's it. He's just a great magician. I got to give him that.
Let me ask you a question, if I may.
He did do one thing right,
Yes,
though.
I can.
And that is he turned right around and made the Democrats stop ignoring the little people. I know I speak from experience. I've gone to Boxer and I've gone to Feinstein, and they have done nothing. And it's been over 2 or 3 years
Let
now.
me ask you something, caller. Hey, caller, let me ask you something.
Go for it.
Who is Donald Trump screwing over? Is it the little people with that health care issue that's come up before the House and the Senate?
Like I said, these are all of the subjects that we're supposed to talk about instead of talking about the main thing. Is he corrupted? Has he been corrupted because of his tax returns and stuff like this should be shown?
No, I asked you a direct question about health care. Is he screwing over the little guy, the middle class, the lower class?
The have-nots are going to get screwed royal because they already proved that 22 million people by the CBC or something like that.
Well,
So the very people that got him elected are going to get the short end of the stick then, right?
Oh, definitely. No way, because there's how are they going to pay for it? They haven't even come up with that. They just say replace it.
All right.
Caller, the reason, hang on, caller, the reason that we don't talk about that, or the reason the congressional folks aren't investigating this, is because Congress is controlled by Republicans, and they're not going to investigate Trump. The investigations have to come from the independent counsel, Robert Mueller. They have to come from the Senate and House Intelligence Committees, and those investigations take a long, long time. There's no evidence at this point, and let's be fair to Mr. Trump now, there's no evidence at this point that shows collusion.
Hang on, caller.
Hang on, caller. Let me make a point here. I'm not a big Donald Trump fan, but I'm going to be fair, and I try to be on this broadcast. There's no direct evidence that Donald Trump himself colluded with the Russians. There are these sideshows and these meetings that his son and son-in-law have held, and we all know about that. But I guess the caller's gone. But that's why we're not talking about. That's why Congress isn't doing anything, because they're controlled by Republicans.
All right, let's get back to the meeting, Putin and Trump. Did Trump believe Putin over his own intelligence agencies, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I have no idea. Nobody has any idea.
Do you believe that he did? I mean, he acted like he did.
Well, there's no reason for Trump to say anything differently, okay? He's at war with our intelligence agencies. He wants to get along with Putin. I mean, first of all, does it matter long term whether Donald Trump says he believes the intelligence agencies or Putin? We know that the Russians attempted to meddle in the election. That's proven, okay? And we seem to be getting more and more proof of that on a daily basis. Let's talk about that meeting that we just found out about yesterday with Donald Trump Jr., with Manafort, and with Kushner.
We'll talk about that in a few
minutes.
minutes.
Right, but that's more evidence of potential discussions about the election, but nothing directly involving the president. Nothing directly involving him.
But the way he spoke in Poland, in Warsaw, a couple of days before.
A powerful speech in Poland.
Powerful speech. He sounded presidential. He
did.
sounded like he was defending the free world.
Defending the West.
He was defending the West against the mighty brutes of Russia.
Yes.
But then he comes back and meets with Putin. And hang on, caller. Then he comes back a couple of days later, the day after, and meets with Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
And basically, in a way, from the reports that we've seen and read, he didn't fully stand up to Putin.
Well,
he accepted Putin's answers from
first
what
of all,
we've heard.
Okay, but we don't know. You were not inside the meeting.
No, neither
nor was I. Nor were any reporters.
No, I don't know who was there.
Right,
I don't even know if Tillerson was there.
So let's
assume that what we've read is true.
Well, let's not assume anything, because we don't know.
What are we supposed to assume then?
All we know is he said it was an honor to meet Putin, because he said that in public.
No, what do you make of that?
They went.
I mean, an honor to meet Putin?
What should he say? You're a scumbag, and I want to declare war on you. It's the president of the two most powerful countries in the world.
But he didn't have to say anything.
Well, sure, he has to say something.
He has to say it's an honor to meet you. I'm glad that you tried to penetrate our election in 2016.
Far be it from me to be a defender of Donald Trump, but you're going over the line here. First of all, he needs to greet the president of Russia in a cordial way, because we do not want war with Russia. We want to cooperate with Russia. It is not in our interest. Now, what is he supposed to do in terms of what Putin said inside the meeting or what Trump agreed to? We don't know. We know that the people who hate Trump, the so-called mainstream media, want to say, and they have no clue because they weren't there either, well, he didn't stand up. Well, how do we know what he did? Okay, how do we know what he said? Now, let's say that Trump, let's assume, we shouldn't assume, but let's say he did not confront Putin after the initial, did you hack the election? Did you try to meddle in the election? Putin says no. Okay, what is Trump supposed to do at that point? Take off his shirt and say, let's fight about it? I'm going to bomb you. I know you're lying. No, that's not what diplomats, that's not what leaders do. And you know this. So let's get off this high horse thing. And I'm not a Trump backer, but let's be fair to Donald Trump. We don't know what he said in the meeting. I think he acted appropriately in going into the meeting with Mr. Putin. We want to have communication with the Soviet Union, with Russia rather. We do not want to be at war with them. So I didn't see anything greatly egregiously wrong with the way Trump handled it. I just didn't.
All right, let's take this call here, and we're gonna move on here. Caller, you're on the air with Dennis Hart. Go ahead.
Dennis is right there. I mean. Who do you know? Who do you know that you're going to confront and say, "Did you do this too? Did you try and get in our elections?" I'm sure Putin was going to say, "Oh yeah, I did."
Right,
exactly.
You bet. He's not going to say, "Wow,
I did
you're
that."
right, you
caught betcha. Me. I think what happened. I think that was the reason why they wanted no reporters in the first place. I think really Donald was back to saying, "Look, man, I want to thank you for everything you did for me in the election time, because you started all kinds of stuff up, and it got me elected."
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I mean, that's probably right. I mean, even Tillerson and Trump couldn't get on the same page.
Yeah.
Afterwards, right, when they were giving their remarks as to what went on, and then Trump saying, "Well, we're gonna be in this joint thing about combating cyber,
Yeah, that's a
whatever the hell it
joke.
is."
That's a joke.
And then today, in his morning tweets, our own president says, "Well, we're never going to be able to get together on combating the cyber terror." So so now he contradicts himself to what he said back in Europe.
Sure.
That we're going to work together. Now we're never going to work together on combating cyber terror. So really, it's just there was never going to be anything coming out of that.
No.
I mean, there was never going to be anything.
Let me,
we have to
hey,
do it on
caller,
our
stay
own.
there for a second, will you, please?
Let me make a quick
there
point
for a
with the
second.
caller. Caller, I agree with you because the folks who are now saying, and we're talking about the Washington Post and the New York Times, criticizing Trump for somehow, even though they have no idea what was said in the meeting because they were not in the meeting, somehow not confronting Putin strongly enough. What exactly would they like Mr. Trump to have done? Punched him in the mouth? Threatened nuclear war? These are the meetings of the two strongest leaders in the world. They need to get along. Putin was obviously not going to say, there was no Perry Mason moment in this, Perry Mason, the show being on the air right before your show, John. There's no Perry Mason moment where Trump says, you interfered with the election, and Putin says, my goodness, you caught me. Yes, I did it. I will. No, of course that was never going to happen. He was never going to admit that. So at that point,
Hang on, caller.
at that point, hang on, caller. At that point, the President of the United States needs to move on. He's not going to admit it. We have investigations going on in this country about possible collusion between the Trump campaign, interference in the election by the Russians. Let the investigations play out. That's all.
All right, caller, I want you to hear me out. Caller, are you there? Are you? Wait a second.
If I were President, Dennis, knowing that there wasn't really going to be anything, favorable to come out of it, I would have done exactly that. I would have kicked the crap out of him.
No,
I
you
would have given him a
wouldn't
nice punch in the nose and said, "Okay,
Oh, my
let's move on
God.
to Syria and
No,
figure that
no,
out."
you're
Okay,
not
but
gonna do
but I would say,
No.
just don't do it again because next time there's going to be repercussions.
Okay,
and I
hang
would
on,
give him
hang on a
nice
second.
sock in the
I
nose.
want caller, caller.
Because there's nobody there, right? There's no press, there's no nothing. I
What are
give
the
him a
re-
nice, big,
what-
bloody
wait a minute,
nose
though.
and said,
What are the
"Okay,
repercussions
let's
you're
move
talking?
on."
What
There's really
repercussions?
nothing
Sanctions,
that's gonna
further
happen
sanctions,
with,
Dennis. The Senate's already
with him
passed
and
something.
with
They
the
want.
president and Putin anyway. I would have just gotten some gratification out of it and then moved on.
You would have gotten some gravitation out of it. I don't.
Gratification.
Oh, gratification by punching him in the mouth. Well, that's war. Is that really what you're just talking?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Dennis. I
Okay.
can't
All
hear
right,
you.
all right, caller. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it because I want to listen. I got to go to break, but I want to bleep this out here. Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday on one of the talk shows talked about that cybersecurity unit that Trump tweeted about that they agreed upon with Putin.
Yeah, right.
This is what Graham said. It's not the dumbest idea, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, no,
Secondly, now let me finish.
what a joke.
He said his meeting with President Putin was a disaster. Trump and Tillerson were willing to forgive and forget, but when it comes to Russia, we shouldn't forgive and forget. Why does Trump have a great plan against ISIS, Afghanistan, Syria, North Korea? But when it comes to Russia, I am dumbfounded. He has a blind spot for Russia. I just don't get it. That's Lindsey Graham.
Well, Lindsey and I have actually met and talked in Iowa during the presidential campaign. He very strongly has strong feelings about what should be done in the Middle East and with Russia. And in this particular case, didn't pull a lot of punches, did Mr. Graham this time
No,
around?
but can you respond to what he said?
Well, of course I can respond to it. Lindsey, you need to calm down. First of all, you had no idea. You didn't present any ideas about what to do with Russia. You seem to be implying the president should be punching Putin in the nose or in the mouth or something like
I think
this.
he was joking.
Well, we hope he was.
Of course
but-
he was.
Well, now, you don't know that, whether he was joking.
The caller? Hang on,
Oh, do you mean the caller?
I'm talking about the
I'm talking about
caller.
Lindsey Graham.
Oh, Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, yeah. I'm talking about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, I love you, and I might have voted for you for president, okay? Because I think you're a smart guy. But here's the deal. You have a blind spot for Russia, too, okay? You hate them. Now, that's great. We should all be very
You don't know
careful.
that he hates them. He wants to be careful of them.
Well, we all want to be careful of them. But when you say it was a disaster, what's your idea of what should have happened? You didn't go the step farther, which is, now I think the president should have done this. You just excoriated him, okay? Well, that's cute.
Well, maybe the talk show host didn't give enough time.
Well, you're not giving me enough time to finish either.
I
so what?
am. You have a whole hour. Graham had like 10 minutes.
Now
Go
look,
ahead.
I know it looks for all the world like I've changed my stripes here, that I'm defending Donald Trump. Truly, I'm not. Donald Trump has been so far pretty much a disastrous president. But in this particular instance, the meeting with Putin, none of us know what went on, and it's presumptuous of us to say he wasn't strong enough, he didn't react strongly enough when Putin denied what went on. We have no idea how the President of the United States responded. We're just assuming on the basis of, I hate Donald Trump, so he must have responded poorly, or I love Donald Trump, and he responded appropriately.
Yeah, but in his tweet, Donald Trump said this: I strongly pressed President Putin about Russian meddling
That's
in our
what he
election.
said.
He
Right.
vehemently denied it.
He denied
I've
it.
already given my opinion. Then, a couple of days before, as I said earlier, he said, oh, they may have been involved, other countries may have been involved.
That's been
we don't really know. Well, how
Right.
come our intelligence agencies know? So we only can go by what Donald Trump tweets and says. Am I right?
Look, Donald Trump, whenever he tweets something, it's that shiny object, and we follow it all down the line and diverts from everything else, doesn't it?
I'm just
It
going
diverts
by
from
what
everything
Trump
else.
has tweeted and said.
Right. He does not believe, apparently, on the basis of what he's tweeted, that Russia was the only people, if they hacked in, he probably believes they hacked in. He's as much as
Maybe.
said that.
We don't know that.
He says other people could have done it. He's been consistent about that. We have an investigation going on. We have a couple of investigations.
3.
We need to wait and see what happens. Does it matter to us right now if Donald Trump tweets at this moment, Vlad probably did it? How does that change anything? How does that change the investigations? How does that change what we do
Cyber
next time?
security unit,
Well, that's a joke.
USA and Russia
that's the most
together
fun-
in
now,
the same
okay,
in the same
that
cage
is
trying to figure this thing
That is ridiculous. Now, I will say this.
Dumb?
If anybody knows
Is that a
about,
dumb idea?
Well, of course, if anybody knows about cyber break-ins and security, it's Vladimir Putin, right? Because he did
Or
it.
KGB.
Now, maybe what Mr. Trump was saying was, you did such a good job with the Democrats. Work with me now, and let's make it official with the country. That's ridiculous, obviously. We're not. They have spies in our country, and we have spies in their country. We're not going to cooperate with them on cybersecurity. That's ridiculous.
All right. Caller, you're going to have to wait until after the break. 436 MeTV option 11. Caller, can you wait until after the break, please? I got to go to a commercial. Can you wait?
Yes, I sure can.
Okay, thank you. 436 MeTV option 11. We're going to be back after this from Thomas Casagrande, 2020 Optometrics. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come into Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here on the program with Dennis Hart, and you just said during the commercial break, and I have to call you out on this, the country can't do this for another 3.5 years.
Yes.
Can it?
I don't think so, because every day, if you look at CNN and MSNBC, Fox News, it's a crisis. Crisis in government, Congress up in arms, the media going crazy, Donald Trump tweeting crazy stuff out there. The country, the system breaks down after a while. The nervous system breaks down with too much stimulation. And what we've had so far in the first 6 months of this administration, not even a full 6 months. He was inaugurated on January 20th. This is July 10th. Not even 6 months. We have had crisis after crisis after crisis.
Feels like 6 years.
And the system can't continue doing that. And we have these continuing investigations, and they stretch out a long time because there's so much to look at. Mueller's investigation, the special counsel, could take years. Senate and House Intelligence Committee, There's Mr. Mueller right now.
Yeah.
The Senate and House Intelligence Committees, minus, of course, the worst congressman in America, Devin Nunes, on the House Intelligence Committee. He's
well, we have
recused
his photo,
himself from
too,
it.
I think.
I think we have a photo of the worst congressman in America.
Yeah.
The man who compromised himself, there he is, completely by taking secret
Now, why do you
information.
say he's the worst in America? Why do you say he's
Well,
the
because
worst?
he had
Aren't there others that might be worse?
Oh, Steve King in Iowa is horrendous. But Steve just badmouths immigrants.
And why is Devin Nunes one of the worst?
Devin's one of the worst because as the head of the House Intelligence Committee, he's complicit in receiving information that should remain private.
Has he cozied up to Trump?
Well, when he goes to the White House and presents secret information to Trump's people before he tells his own committee.
Is he trying to protect the president?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's willing to go down with President Trump. And you know, Devin, you are likely to do so if something's found out. So be careful, Devin.
Caller, you've been patient. I appreciate it very much. And you got the floor. You're on the air with Dennis Hart. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. What I wanted to talk about a little bit about the Russian hacking and what went on in Europe yesterday with Putin and Trump. That what went on in that meeting, you don't know, I don't know. But what we do know is from the day he started running for president, he cozied up to Putin. And when all this came out, when all our intelligence sources said they did it, there's no doubt they did it, he still refused to say that publicly. The problem is going into that meeting is that the Russians have made a fool out of us and the country. And he needed to stand up, make a strong, strong statement that they did it, and the Russians need to face up to it, and if they don't, there's going to be consequences. And what he's doing now, I applaud the Senate, the Republicans, and the Democrats in the Senate for those strong sanctions. It goes to the House, and now it's stumbling around the House. But the president should stand up and say, if that the Russians did it, there needs to be strong sanctions, and that's what he should be doing. And I'm afraid, like I said, I don't know what happened in that meeting. You don't know what happened in the meeting because there was nobody in the meeting but just a handful of people. And that's for a reason, too. Okay. But the point is, what should have happened is you should have gone into that meeting or prior to that meeting and say, you know what? We want to work with you and we want things to change, but they're not going to change as long as you doing what you're doing, not only to the American democracy, but to democracies all over the world. And I'm done.
All right,
that was an excellent call. And I agree with you. I think the disgrace of Donald Trump, the biggest disgrace so far, has been his lack of acknowledgement of what every one of our intelligence agencies has concluded, that the Russians attempted to interfere in this election on his behalf. Now, the reason he doesn't do that, from everything we understand, is because he obviously does not want to give any credence to the idea that that influence defeated Hillary Clinton. The Russian influence did not defeat Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton. I say that, and every bit of evidence says that. And he apparently believes by allowing himself to say, yeah, the Russians interfered, that somehow it'll take away from his victory. You notice during the week, during a couple of days ago, he tweeted again about John Podesta and the Democratic National Committee and some outrageous garbage about that. He can't get over the election even though he won the election. So early on, he went to war with our intelligence agencies. Not a very good idea since every one of them believed that the Russians attempted to interfere. It would not have weakened him, in my impression, to have just admitted, look, yes, they attempted to interfere, but I won the election. It had nothing to do with my winning. I agree with that. I'm not going to say that the Russians elected Donald Trump. He elected himself, and Hillary Clinton was a lousy candidate. But he did not do that, and now he seems trapped in his own rhetoric. He can't get out of the way, and yes, that's why it looks all so suspicious. He's been cozying up to Putin because he will not admit the Russians attempted to hack in, and it looks bad. And then, of course, he fires Comey, who was conducting the investigation, and that looks bad. There's James Comey, the former FBI director.
Right.
So
okay,
all he has to do, John, and we've said this before on this broadcast, if there's nothing there, Mr. Trump, if you did not collude, get out of the way of the investigation.
Okay, but
get out of the way.
But here's the thing. I'm not going to take this call just yet. Caller, I'm going to ask you to hold for a minute because I do want to read a couple of tweets that Putin, or not Putin, but Trump put out. Donald Trump, the president, put out a couple of tweets saying that questions were asked about why the CIA and FBI had to ask the DNC 13 times for their server and were rejected. Hang on, caller. Still don't have it. Fake news. Said 17 intel agencies when actually 4. Why did Obama do nothing when he had info before the election? Now, John Brennan is the former CIA director, and he said this yesterday on the show, one of the talk shows, forget which one, but Trump said that Obama did nothing. He confronted Putin last September. He expelled 35 Russian diplomats.
Right.
He imposed sweeping new sanctions on Russia. Obama called these people Russian intelligence operatives. How can Donald Trump put out a tweet and say publicly that the President Obama, did nothing when he found out about it last August when he confronted Putin and told him to knock it off?
Because Trump is trying to divert attention, and he's lying, that's all. I mean, he has never accepted the idea, number one, that the Russians did interfere in the election. Vladimir Putin hated Hillary Clinton. There's no question about it. We haven't even talked about the meeting which plays into this, the meeting between Trump Jr., Kushner.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's an important part of this whole meeting because the whole concept, because it took place in Trump Tower last year with his son, Trump's son, meeting with a Russian lawyer who promised to have dirt on Hillary Clinton.
With Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner, his
what does that
son-in-law.
indicate? What does that indicate? They're trying to get information through the Russians to kill Hillary Clinton's campaign.
And by the way, this Russian attorney knew nothing. She had no information.
No, it was
all
a lie.
hoax.
It was a lie, right.
This took place, this meeting, so-called meeting, took place on June the 9th, 2016 at Trump Tower in New York City. And so previously, what makes this a huge story, front page of the New York Times yesterday with a huge headline that said Trump's son met with Russian lawyer after being promised damaging information on Clinton. But the reason that's such a big story is because all along, the Trump administration has denied any kind of collusion or contact with the Russians.
All along the way, they've been saying consistently there was no contact between Trump's people and any Russians involving this campaign. So now yesterday, it is confirmed, because Donald Trump Jr. has confirmed it, that there was a secret meeting in Trump Tower with Trump's son-in-law, Kushner, and with Paul Manafort, who was chairman of Trump's campaign at that point. Secret meeting with this Russian lawyer with the express purpose. She called this meeting the Russian lawyer because she said she had dirt on Hillary Clinton.
And she had nothing.
And right. So what does that indicate? And now, because they've been caught in the lie, and it's not fake news, it's the New York Times reporting it and Trump Jr. confirming it, okay, only after the Times reported it. Now here comes Trump Jr. saying, covering for his father, well, he didn't know anything about that. So I want to ask you a question then. I have no idea whether Donald Trump Sr. knew about this. But here's the question. If your son, you're running a presidential campaign, and your son, your son-in-law, and your campaign manager meet with a Russian lawyer, do you really not know about that? Are you telling me as the candidate you don't know about that? I find that difficult to believe.
All right. Hey, caller, I'm going to go to break and then come back and put you on the air. Is that okay? Do you want to hang on?
Okay.
All right. 436-MeTV, option 11 is the telephone number here. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor. Back in just a moment. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
All right, as promised, we're going to get right to the call. 436 MeTV option 11. You are on the air with Dennis Hart. Thank you much for your patience. Go ahead.
Dennis, it's so nice to talk to you again, and
Mr.
congratulations.
Merced. Mr. Merced.
Yes, it is. It's
Are you listening? Are you
Casey
listening? Are you listening to my morning commentaries on radio? Are you having a good time with that?
You know, I don't. I listen to a local station here, but you know, maybe I don't know on a podcast. Can we get really?
The reason I ask you is because I mentioned you in a commentary the other day in a very positive way.
Oh, what did you happen to say, by the way?
No, I said that I was on this broadcast, and you called in, and we were talking about labels. And you and I had the discussion, a very positive discussion, that you shouldn't try to label me or anybody else in terms of political philosophy, and we had a very positive discussion on that.
No, I agree with you, and it's so good to see you finally, you know, coming around a little bit. You know, the 5 stages of grief. One of them is bargaining, and it's so good to see today.
Did you hear me
that you
praising
admitted
Mr. Trump, defending
Trump isn't that bad? I thought that was. I just think that's wonderful, and the next phase is acceptance. And you know, even though John may seem like 6 years, it's going to seem like 8 years, John, because that's how long Donald will be there. And really, I think what we're talking about is semantics when we come to this Russian thing.
Semantics.
We know
Semantics.
we know who colluded with the Russians or colluded in the election to throw the election. It was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It was Donna Brazil. It was John Podesta. And Trump made no bones about it that if the Russians or anybody else had emails or disparaging information on Hillary, that he wanted them to release it prior to the election. He made that in his campaign spot. So
now you're just joking right now.
Now wait a second.
You're just joking.
No, he didn't. I think he said that if the Russians have information on the emails, the missing emails, please release them.
And you realize that is a potentially treasonous request, right? A foreign power, an enemy of the American people. He wants to get information about a campaign opponent. You realize that potentially is treason, right?
I think it was a flippant comment of Donald Trump, just like a lot of his. And it's just like when he says that the Russians did not influence the elections. You've admitted it. The other people have admitted there was no voter fraud. And that's what he means. And the other side wants to take the broad statement and say, well, the Russians had nothing to do. Of course they did. They released the Podesta emails via WikiLeaks.
Yes, they did. They did.
So to say that the Russians had nothing to do with it, even Donald Trump admits that. But what he's trying to say, and nobody wants to admit because she lost, is that the Russians did not influence one vote. There were more illegal votes cast than anything done by the Russians.
You don't know that, caller. There's no evidence of that.
I'm going to call him. Can I call you Mr. Merced? Because that's
Mr.
your
Merced.
Mr. Merced. All right, Mr. Merced. It's okay. Hang on a second. Just listen to my comment here. There is no proof that the Russians actually penetrated our election.
That's correct.
Influence with votes.
That is correct.
By changing votes.
That is correct.
Influencing machines, state by state. But according to our intelligence agencies, they tried to interfere.
And they did penetrate the Democratic National Committee computers, and they did release the information. So that was an effort to influence the election. That is correct.
But you also have to admit, Dennis, that Donna Brazil, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz did try to sway the Democratic nominee, the process, over to Hillary Clinton instead of Bernie Sanders. You know that.
Well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with.
No, I know, but you kind of chuckled when Mr. Merced mentioned that.
No,
but
when
it's
Mr.
true.
Merced, and I give you great credit, Mr. Merced. I won't just call you by your last name.
It's Mr. Merced.
It's Mr. Merced, yes. So here's the deal, though, Mr. Merced. You are correct, and I am correct, and John is even correct, in that. Yes, you will admit the Russians attempted to influence the election. Where Mr. Trump goes overboard is by denying that to a great extent because he's afraid that that will somehow take away from his victory over Mrs. Clinton. And I've said numerous times, it wasn't the Russians who defeated Hillary Clinton. It was Donald J. Trump. She was a terrible candidate. He defeated her. He gets full credit for that.
Had Trump actually ran the election against Obama, do you think Obama would have beat him?
Oh, yes. But Obama wasn't eligible for a third
I
term.
understand.
Yeah.
In theory. I'm just saying in theory.
The only candidate on the Democratic side, well, there were two candidates Mr. Trump could have beaten. One of them was Hillary Clinton. The other was the crazy man, Bernie Sanders. Because Sanders is a
Sanders
socialist.
would have been a very interesting opponent for Donald Trump.
Right.
Very interesting.
But the Democratic Party, now, Mr. Merced, I want you to praise me immensely after I'm about to say what I say, after I say this. Praise me. Are you ready, Mr. Merced? The Democratic Party is an absolute mess right now. Shambles. No message. No, their only thing is, anything Trump does, we oppose. That's not a winning formula. They're a disgrace right now. Would you agree with me?
Yes, obstruct and resist is not a platform.
That's
that
correct.
is a adversarial
That's
position that you take when against an opponent. There's no reaching across the aisle. There's no sitting with each other.
No.
And let me just say one thing. When Obama said, hey, after the election, I'll be able to work with you, the open mic, that didn't seem to get a lot of people's backs up other than the conservatives. And I don't see a lot of Democrats that were upset with that. But let me also say that America is not lily white. We're not out there just planting daisies all day long. We have covert operations going on in other countries to try to benefit our interests around the world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there would be a lot of hard feelings from other people, maybe Russia, that would say, hey, what are you doing to me? And we did take sanctions against the Russians. We kicked out their diplomats. We ripped their kids out of school. We put them on a plane within 48 hours.
That was President Obama. President Obama did
I understand that, and he only did that after the election, which was very interesting because we know now he knew at least a year before of things going on. And I found it so interesting when the CIA director this weekend said, well, these comments about we choked, they should say who said that. Well, what about all these anonymous comments?
Mr. Merced, I have to interrupt you right there because you're talking about reaching across the aisle. Let me ask you what Republicans have done to reach across the aisle with this health care bill. They had a 200-page document, no discussion in public. It was all done behind closed doors, drafted behind closed doors. In fact, your Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, Republican out of Kentucky, said last week that if he can't muster the 50 votes, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board and have no choice but to draft a more modest bill with Democrats. In other words, he's going to have to reach across the aisle to draw support from Democrats to rewrite the existing law. So who's reaching across and who isn't, Mr. Merced?
John, we've all been married. You understand how it is. You go along with the boss, okay? When you look at the Democrats, they didn't want any Republican help when they drafted the first health care bill. They did it alone. We wanted to work. You know, we had you got to pass it before we can tell you what's in it. Now, the Republicans want repeal. Well, old Schumer, old teary-eyed Schumer, he says, no way, you got to take repeal off the table because they don't want to see Obama legacy go to waste. So, again, when you say the Republicans aren't working, who started this for 8 years? Yeah. 8 years there was no reaching across the aisle.
There hasn't
8 years of no budget.
Mr. Merced,
who has a
Mr. Merced, hang on a sec. May I get a word, Mr. Merced? Mr. Merced, hang on a second. It did not start 8 years ago. There has been there's been political dysfunction for many years in this country. It didn't start with Democrats or Republicans, but you seem to be equating it. It's a tit for tat situation. It's okay for the Republicans to do it now because the Democrats did it. That's not a way to move forward in this country, is it?
No, it's not. It's not okay, and we are going to come to bipartisanship because I am not as optimistic as some people that think this bill is going to pass. Right. And if it does, it's not going to have widespread acceptance. You have to have bipartisanship.
That's right.
And we're so polarized. That's why I started off, Dennis. It was so nice to see you come around.
It's Mr.
so
Merced,
nice
we're running out of time here. We're running out of time.
Mr. Merced, thank you very, very much. And
it's always
good to talk to you. And it's AM 1680 at 7:30 in the morning. I might even mention you again.
And it's Comcast Channel 375 Monday through Friday.
Well, we love you, and if you're so inclined, it's AM 1480 Saturday morning 8 to 9:30, and you can hear Mr. Merced.
Mr. Merced.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
All right. His real name. His real name. All right.
All right. Hey,
Thank
listen,
you,
Mr.
Merced.
Thank you for calling, and keep watching, would you?
I wish we had a Mr. Tulare or a Mr. Biola or a Mr.
Yeah, that was a great call. But hey, here's what I want to do. I want to move on to healthcare. And Kerry, let's roll the videotape. I'll talk over. It's called Community Regional Medical Centers. Right here in the Central Valley, Jim Costa was on this program on Friday. We talked about the healthcare bill being pushed through the Senate. Let me tell you what he said about his congressional constituents in his district. Jim Costa said that he's got 400,000 people, okay, in his district. Prior to Obamacare, there were 22% uninsured. After Obamacare, now in 2017, only 11% uninsured. 44,000 more people are insured under Obamacare. Under the Senate bill that's being pushed through right now by Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, I'm going to take this call but put it on hold. Hang on, caller. It is on life support. 10 now Republicans are rejecting this health bill. They are rejecting the idea of pushing this through. Johnson out of Wisconsin, Paul out of Kentucky, Lee out of Utah, Cruz out of Texas, Heller out of Nevada. You know the story with him, up for re-election. Collins in Maine, Portman of Ohio, Capito of West Virginia, Moran of Kansas, and the latest one, number 10, is Hoven out of North Dakota. And so this health care bill, according to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, throwing 22 million people off the health care rolls. That's the Senate version. The congressional version, they're throwing 23 million off. Medicaid gets cut by $800 billion.
Yeah, that's
Dennis, come on.
Yeah, this is not, Mr. Merced is correct here. This is not going to pass. If it does pass, if the Republicans make the dramatic mistake, which Cruz is willing to do apparently, if they can't reach consensus, repeal it and replace it later. That throws immediately those people off health care. That will destroy the Republican Party in the United States. Health care is the third rail of American politics right now. It is an accepted entitlement that people have and want. You cannot simply throw 20 million people off health insurance and expect to survive as a party. Now, the people you mentioned, the 10 senators who are opposed, they're opposed for different reasons. Half of them are opposed because they're worried about the Medicaid cuts. The other half are opposed. It doesn't go far enough.
Well, it doesn't go far enough.
Exactly.
And many are worried about re-election, like Heller out of Nevada. And there are 4 more on the fence. Look at this.
So you've got the Republican Party completely split between the extreme right and those moderates who say this is painful, it's too painful, and Cruz, who apparently is nuts. I saw him yesterday on This Week with Stephanopoulos. Oh, yes, we're giving people a choice. If we repeal Obamacare, we can replace it later. You're never going to replace it later. You're going to throw those people off.
I want to get this caller involved, but I want to run this videotape first. Caller, hang on. I will get to you. Kerry, go ahead and cue up Senators Face Healthcare Backlash, because what I do want to talk about is last week was the 4th of July week. And no, not yet. I'm trying to intro it. I'm trying to intro it. Cue it up. Don't roll it just yet. I want to set this up because, as you know, last week was the 4th of July. They were on a holiday break. They went back to work this morning on Capitol Hill, as you well know, and they will resume talks about what to do with that Senate health care bill. There are 10, count them, 10 right now, Republicans saying no, 4 more on the fence. And during the holiday break last week, many were dodging their constituents, avoiding any town hall meetings, as we'll see in this report. You can roll it with sound from ABC News.
GOP senators are facing at town halls around the country. The issue, the Republican health care bill. That bill is in trouble. These 9 GOP senators opposed to it as it stands. And ABC's David Curley is in Washington with more on that. Good morning, David.
The Republicans can only lose 2, Amy, and just days before the senators return here. But over the 4th of July recess, critics say that many Republicans have been avoiding public appearances because of the health care debate.
Tension over health care reform.
Vote him out!
Critics complaining Republican senators have been avoiding town halls. But overnight,
I don't think there's been another issue more thoroughly litigated in American politics than Obamacare.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz at a Veterans Health meeting may have seen protesters outside, but inside.
We're obviously having major debates about Obamacare. I'm doing everything I can to lead the fight to repeal Obamacare and to give people choice.
The Senate leader isn't planning to change the bill, with estimates that say 23 million Americans will not be able to get health care in the future. And as of this morning, it doesn't appear there are enough votes for passage. Some of those protesting with what has become the Democratic message.
People will die under this plan. People may have had to pay an increased premium under Obamacare. Let's fix it.
It's not a health care bill. It's a tax break for the rich.
Now, polls continue to show that nearly two-thirds of Americans are opposed to the current bills on the Hill. But many of the Republicans preparing to take a vote ran on repeal and replace. So, George, it looks like the showdown could come next week.
Yeah, we're waiting for that. Okay, David Curley, thank you.
Yeah, so that was on Friday, and you know, there you have it. They go back to work today after that long recess, and many of them just dodging their constituents because they're afraid of these town hall meetings, much like Devin Nunes is afraid to hold a town hall meeting.
I think this is political suicide for Republicans, as ABC reported and as every other poll shows. 2/3 to 70% of the American people are opposed to this health care plan that the Republicans have put forward. If they impose this, if they somehow repeal Obamacare without a replacement, I don't see how any of them survive. This is death to the Republican Party. You can't throw 20 million people off something they have relied on and expect to survive. And Ted Cruz, who appeared there, and of course we saw him yesterday on the talk shows, he's a nihilist, I think. He's really ready to tear down government, tear down the party.
Well, he won't answer the direct question about protecting people with pre-existing conditions.
Doesn't want to answer that.
He made the most incredible statement I've ever heard. He said that the people with pre-existing conditions, there is a small pool of people around the country that have pre-existing conditions. Are you kidding me?
There are millions of people
Are you serious?
who could not get insurance until Obamacare because of pre-existing conditions. Look,
How can he make a statement that way?
Well, he's presuming you don't know. He's presuming you don't do your own research. We don't do our research, right?
That's astounding that he would make a comment
insurance
like that.
companies, until Obamacare came along, refused to enroll anybody with pre-existing conditions because those are people who need the care, who are going to cost money. It's only after the Health Care Act, the Affordable Health Care Act, was passed that they were forced to do that. And now Cruz wants to take it away.
All right, caller, you've been patient, and I want to put you on the air. Go ahead. You're on with Dennis Hart.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment and correct Mr. Merced.
Mr. Merced, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Merced, what had happened was that, as we all know, that a few Republicans put this bill together, okay, to repeal and replace.
Yes.
And then he said, and the Democrats didn't do anything when they put it through, but that's not so. They had almost 50 hearings,
yes,
and they had 100 amendments approved that the Republicans put into that bill. And so I'm just saying that I think the problem is a lot of times is people want to give their facts that aren't necessarily so. And so I just wanted to correct that. I talked to you just a minute before, and I just heard Mr. Merced, and I wanted to correct that there was hearings and that there was amendments put in. But the Republicans have not allowed this to happen. And really the fact is a lot of Republicans haven't had an opportunity to put their input or to have their amendments. And then they're going to have a couple of days of hearings and debate, and they're going to allow 2 minutes for debate. It's ridiculous. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing.
Let me read you a quote out of the New York Times. This is for Mr. Merced, by the way. Mr. Merced, I hope you're listening. Senator Jerry Moran, a Republican out of Kansas, told the New York Times that there are people who tell me they are better off with the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and I believe them. Moran, who said last week that he did not support the GOP measure in its current form, called for a national debate that includes legislative hearings. What a novel idea.
Yeah. This is really a battle, an existential battle within the Republican Party. You have a group of Republicans, John, as you know, who do not believe, and this is the Ted Cruzes of the world here, the Ted Cruzes, the extreme right of the party, who honestly do not believe government has a role in anybody's personal life in terms of health care. They think that if you get sick or get old, it's your fault. If you're not rich enough to pay for it, it's your fault.
Too
now,
bad.
right.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, and there is another hand, the left wing of the Democratic Party, they have a group of people over there who believe that government should be involved in every aspect of your life. And that if you're rich, you should be punished. It's your fault for being rich, and we're going to punish you by taking money from you.
Pay your fair share.
And giving it to people who have no money. In between are all the rest of us. Pragmatic, we hope. We agree, I think all of us who are somewhat reasonable would agree, a healthy society is better than a society of people who are dying, that government should have a role with older people, Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid for poor people. That's the battle going on now. But the battle is in the Republican Party between the nihilists, the Cruzes, who say government has no role. Get it out of there. And the folks like Susan Collins of Maine,
hang on, caller.
like Heller of Nevada, who say, wait a minute, hang on. We don't like Obamacare, but we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Heller's saying hang on because he's up for re-election next year.
Correct.
Caller, go ahead. What is your question or comment? Quickly, we're short on time.
Well, I'm going to just pivot on what you guys are discussing right now for a moment and try to ask your guest's opinion about why he thinks that the typically conservative Republicans are not outraged in the taxpayer waste that Trump is doing every time he goes to his golf courses and when he's enriching himself and his family. And why is there so little said about that from the Republican side?
All right, caller, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
I'll give you a quick answer. Because those people who back Donald Trump are willing to forgive him for anything. They hate government. They hated Hillary Clinton. They hated the culture. They're willing to give him wide berth on anything he says or does, even if normally, if President Obama, remember how often President Obama was criticized for playing golf? Trump's played golf far more, but it's okay because he's a Republican.
Carrie, roll a videotape. We'll take this with no sound. I'm going to talk over this. It's called Kim Jong-un. Quickly, Dennis, we got 2 minutes left. As you know, North Korea tested yet another missile last Tuesday. Here is Kim Jong-un. His cohorts, this was a milestone for that country. Rocket could hit targets thousands of miles away. Fortunately, it could not hit the mainland or Hawaii, but it could possibly hit Alaska. What to do about Kim Jong-un and his missile test? Do we attack?
No.
Do we bomb North Korea?
Of course not.
Why?
Because we cannot take out, according to every Pentagon assessment, we cannot take out their missiles with an initial attack. Because Seoul, South Korea, would be destroyed before we could take out Mr. Un's missiles, because millions of people will die, and because we don't want that on our conscience, and that's not what we do. We're not going to bomb North Korea.
Well, the missile that was launched was launched. It went 600 linear miles from the launch site itself. Topped out at more than 1,700 miles above the surface of the Earth. But had it flown in a typical trajectory, it could have gone easily more than 4,000 miles.
Sure.
Dennis.
No, this guy's a crazy man, and he's the most dangerous man in the world. He's the most dangerous threat to world peace that we have. But we're not going to bomb North Korea because millions of people will die if we bomb North Korea. The only people I think who can solve this problem are the Chinese, and they have to either get rid of this guy or put enough sanctions on him, enough screws on him, to make him stop, because he appears to be insane.
Okay, quickly, in 30 seconds, you're saying that by the time our missiles reach North Korea, South Korea will already have been destroyed.
There's no question. We don't have enough missiles. We can't take out all of the thousands of missile batteries that North Korea has pointed
What about our
towards South Korea.
battleships off the coast?
We don't have that kind of missile capability. It takes every Pentagon assessment says it would take a week or two to defeat North Korea. They will incinerate South Korea at that point.
By the time we show up,
Yes,
by the time
yes.
our missiles get there.
There's no good way of doing this one. I wish there were. I wish it were easy, but it's not easy.
No, nothing is easy.
What
That's
a
why
great
we have a great show, Dennis.
Callers, we couldn't even get on the air. We're sorry.
I know. We're sorry. We apologize. But,
I think I'll just take off
all
down
right,
the street
listen,
here.
we're out of time. We'll talk to you on the
Time for me
phone
to
next
leave.
month. You're going to be in Iowa next month, and we'll call you.
I'll be around. Okay?
All right,
You can call
Mr.
me.
Cool, thank you very much.
Thank you.
68th appearance. Thanks to
68.
all the callers out there that called in today on Connect With Me, including Mr. Merced. 436-MeTV, option 11, if you want to leave a message. See you tomorrow with our talk about downtown Fresno. Have a good day. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest